tore it from its frame, looked at it intently for a moment, and then, with a sigh, slid it in an inside pocket. This done, he stripped off his wet storm coat, thrust his arms into a close-fitting reefing jacket, unhooked a holster from its place, dropped its contents into his outside pocket, and walked slowly down the flight of steps to where the Texan and the Actor stood waiting. Then, facing the passengers, and in the same tone of voice with which he would have ordered a cup of coffee from a steward, he said, "My friends, I find it necessary to abandon the ship. There is time enough and no necessity for crowding. The boats are provisioned for 30 days. The women and children will go first. This order will be literally carried out. Those who disobey it will have to be dealt with in another way. This, I hope, you will not make necessary. I will also tell you that I believe we are still within the steamer zone, although the fog and weather have prevented any observation. Do you stay here, madam? I'll come for you when I'm ready." And he laid his hand encouragingly on the widow's arm. With this he turned to the Texan and the Actor. "You understand, both of you, do you not, Mr. Bonner? You and your friend will guard the aft companionway, and help the chief engineer take care of the stokers and the steerage. I and the first officer will fill the boats." The beginning of a panic is like the beginning of a fire. First a curl of smoke licking through a closed sash, then a rush of flame, and then a roar freighted with death. Its subduing is along similar lines, a sharp command clearing the way, concentrated effort, and courage. Here the curl of smoke was an agonized shriek from an elderly woman who fell fainting on the deck. The rush of flame was a wild surge of men hurling themselves toward the boats, and the roar which meant death was the frenzied throng of begrimed, half-naked stokers and crazed emigrants who were wedged in a solid mass in the companionway leading to the upper deck. The subduing was the same.
"Back, all of you!" shouted the engineer. "The first man who passes that door without my permission I'll kill. 5 of you at a time. No crowding. Keep 'em in line, Mr. Bonner. You and your friend."
The Texan and the bum Actor were within 3 feet of him as he spoke. The Texan as cool as if he were keeping count of a drove of steers, except that he tallied with the barrel of a 6-shooter instead of a notebook and pencil. The bum Actor's face was deathly white, and his pistol hand trembled a little, but he did not flinch. He ranged the lucky ones in line farther along, and kept them there. "Anything to get home," he had told the Texan, when he had slipped Bonner's other revolver, an hour before, into his pocket. On the saloon deck the flame of fear was still raging, although the sailors and the 3 stewards were so many moving automatons under the first officer's orders. The widow, with her baby held tight to her breast, had not moved from where the captain had placed her, nor had she uttered a moan. The crisis was too great for anything but implicit obedience. The captain had kept his word, and had told her when danger threatened. She must now wait for what God had in store for her. The boy stood by the first officer. He had clapped his hands and laughed when he saw the first boat swing clear of the davits. Carhart was the colour of ashes and could hardly articulate. He had edged up close to the gangway where the boats were to be filled. Twice he had tried to wedge himself between the first officer and the rail, and twice had been pushed back, the last time with a swing that landed him against a pile of steamer chairs. All this time the fog-horn had kept up its monotonous din, the Costons flaring at intervals. The stoppage of either would only have added to the terror now partly allayed by the captain's encouraging talk, which was picked up and repeated all over the ship. The first boat was now ready for passengers. "This way, madam, you first," the captain said to the widow. "You must go alone with the baby, and I—" He did not finish the sentence. Something had caught his ear, something that made him lunge heavily toward the rail, his eyes searching the gloom, his hand cupped to his ear. "Hold hard, men!" he cried. "Keep still, all of you!" Out of the stillness of the night came the moan of a distant foghorn. This was followed by a wild cheer from the men at the boat davits. At the same instant a dim, far-away light cut its way through the black void, burned for a moment, and disappeared like a dying star. Another cheer went up. This time the watch on the foretop and the men astride the nose sent it whirling through the choke and damp with an added note of joy. The captain turned to the widow. "That's her, that's the St. Louis. I've been hoping for her all day, and didn't give up until the fog shut in."
"And we can stay here."
"No, we haven't a moment to lose. Our fires are nearly out now. We've been in a sinking condition for 48 hours. We sprung a leak where we couldn't get at it, and our pumps are clogged." "Stand aside, men." "All ready, madam. No, you can't manage them both. Give me the boy. I'll bring him in the last boat." End of story.